Hey, and welcome to a new episode of Shorcuts, the accelerated guitar method, with me, your host, Paul deMarco. Thanks for watching, and thanks for coming along and trying to improve your guitar playing with a few lessons. Now, this week we are dealing with warm-ups. Now, when I started doing warm-ups, I wish that I had started doing it much sooner in my guitar learning, and I couldn't undo that, but I could make sure that I continued to do so. Now, any athlete wouldn't even dream of partaking in their sport or their event, or even training for their event without doing a warm-up. So we're exercising and having warm-ups with our hands and our minds as well. And yet we often start playing without a warm-up of any kind whatsoever. So, first rule, change that right now. Make sure that every time you pick up the guitar from now on, you do a little warm-up, even if it's literally just for 30 seconds or a minute, just before you kick into some more strenuous playing. So that's the reason why we need to warm up. It just gets your hands trained and ready to do what you're about to get them to do. So it really is important. So what do you warm up? Well, the first thing that we're going to look at is single note warm-ups. So we want to warm up the picking hand and the fretting hand, and we keep this really simple. First of all, we position your four fingers of your hand so that each finger has a fret. I'd set it around fret 5, it's just nice and easy, but you can pretty much do this anywhere on the neck that you want. So basically fingers 1, 2, 3 and 4 each have a fret of their own, and they're ready in position to try these warm-ups out. So the first thing that we do is literally play each of those notes, 1, 2, 3 and 4 in order. So and make sure you pick a speed that's comfortable for you, that works right. So here we go. So we'd have okay, so that's nice and simple. Now we're going to speed that up just a little bit, and we're going to use alternate picking, because that's important pretty much most of the time that you're playing. If you think about it, even when you do a downstroke, you have to do an upstroke to get back to your starting position to strum down again. So we're actually always doing alternate strokes. We're always going down and up with our picking. So it makes sense to practice that all the time. So we're going to alternate pick, which means we do a down pick followed by an up pick. But each note that we play will change the direction of the pick. So we start with a down with 1, up with 2, down with 3, and up with 4. Now what I want you to do is repeat that 4 times. So we're going to go. Starts to sound like some sort of eerie sci-fi movie, right? Okay. Now we're going to do 4 of those, then we're going to move to the next string. And then we're just going to keep doing that for each string that we come to. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but as I'm playing these, I'm not keeping my fingers on. I'm not holding them all on. I'm walking. So my fingers are moving each time. So no lazy fingers. Just keep them walking, keep them moving. So once we've got all the way up to the top, then we travel back down to the bottom, and this time we do it 2 times for each string. Also remember that your pace needs to be even, so that you're doing the same speed over and over again. Okay? So we do it twice. Change strings. Change. Okay, and then you return back to string number 6 rather, sorry, the low E string, and you're going to play just once through each string. So we go. Now at this point you can choose to maybe speed up the pace a little bit if you want. How do you know if you're doing it evenly or not? Well, one way is to use either a drum machine or a metronome of some kind to do that. So for example, maybe we'd have a beat playing like that, and we'd go 2, 3, 4. Okay. Now that's set at 120 BPM. So you pick a speed that's good for you. If it's easy, speed it up and try it a little bit faster. And I would gradually speed that up until you couldn't do it anymore. And when you get to that point, slow it down a few BPMs till you can do it, and do it a few times like that, and then push it up a little bit further again. You'll find that you'll keep breaking that threshold. So if your threshold is, say, 137, you come back a few notches to 133, 134. You'll find then, as you gradually push that up, you'll be able to break 137 and you'll be able to push to 140. And that'll be your breaking point. And gradually, as you keep doing that, you will push it, and that breaking point will just get further up, and as you get just that little bit faster as well. Remember, speed isn't everything. Accuracy is everything. You could do it fast but sound like this. It's rubbish. It's got to be even, accurate and clear. Doesn't matter how slow you do it. And then once you get that accuracy and clearness in the sound, then start to speed it up and add more things to it. So that gives us a basic foundation for what we're going to do. Now, what I like to do is take that as a code. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's your code, okay? Then on a piece of paper, I would write down as many different variations of that. First of all, the most obvious one is to reverse it and play 4, 3, 2, 1. So you'd go. Okay, and you do the same. You'd speed that up until it felt until you got to breaking point, and then you'd start pushing it. But it gets a little bit more fun, a little bit more interesting when you start mixing up that order completely. So let's say you wrote down on a piece of paper loads and loads of different ones. I find writing them down helps because you can just look at it. You're using less of your concentration on trying to figure out what you should be doing by just looking at it and going, okay. So you might do, for example, 1, 4, 2, 3. 1, 4, 2, 3. So then you'd go. You may choose a different one, and you might start on a number other than 1. So maybe you'll start on 2, and perhaps you'll go 2, 4, 1, 3. So you'd go. And you'll find that as you choose more complicated ones, your brain starts to work harder and your fingers start to work harder, because you're now thinking, okay, this isn't normal, this is unusual. But the reason we're doing this is it trains, we're doing it for a number of reasons. Firstly, it's a warm-up. It warms your fingers up, so then when you start playing, you just go straight into it. Singers do the same. They warm up their voice. I know when I warm up my voice before a recording or a gig, I sing better than if I don't warm up at all. I know that when I warm up my guitar before a gig or a session, I play better. It really is that simple. So if you want to play better, do warm-ups. So you can keep coming up with those different codes, choose different ones. I'd write a list, say a list of 14, and over the next fortnight, choose a different one each day to just practice. You can move it around. There's a really cool idea, I think was in a Joe Satriani guitar lesson that I read, where you go in a diagonal pattern. So maybe you'd start at fret 1, let's just do 1, 2, 3, 4, but you move forward a fret as you go up a string. That's quite cool. There are lots of other variations which maybe we'll come to later on in this series, and we can talk about others. We've been practicing picking whilst we've doing that, but it's also a good opportunity to practice hammer-ons. So you could do those patterns by just playing hammer-ons. So we could go, and you could do this much quicker as well, because your fingers can probably fret quicker than your pick can pick. So we might do this. And again, we're looking for accuracy and evenness. We might do those as pull-offs. Let's start from the top and come down. More difficult. So that one's a little bit tricky. That takes a little bit of practice to get it nice and even. Something I think I'm going to have a focus on working on over my next session. But there's lots of different variations that you can use and to do that. Like I say, we could just keep expanding that all day. But there are more things that we can try to do with that. So give that a try. Single note warm-ups, and you'll find that then when you play, you will play better. Now, what if we want to warm up chords? Well, we're going to approach this one slightly differently because we're going to do what I call context-based warm-ups. So you'll take a song that you're learning, or maybe a song that you've written and you need to record or play live, and you look at the chords. You choose two of the chords in that song, any two. So for example, let's take C and E minor. Okay, they're the two chords in the song, and I want to practice those and warm them up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play 8 strums of each chord at an even tempo, just down strums. Again, you want to make sure each chord is clean and accurate. No mutes, no obstructions to any strings. And the same when you change, you want to make sure you're changing and you're doing all that nice and cleanly and accurately. You can then speed that up and play it quicker. We can then choose to warm up the alternate picking, so we can do now 16th notes. So now it's going to be a down followed by an up. We're still going to count 8, but remember after each one you have an upstroke, so you double it, so you're going to get 16. So we might go something like this: 2, 3, 4. Now, again, particularly with the 16th notes, we want to make sure our tempo is even, and when we change, we don't want to be stopping. Why? Because maybe when you practice, you are stopping between changes. Well, imagine you're in a situation where you're playing with a drummer, you're playing with a band. Now, is this what happens in a band situation? Hang on, guys, hang on, and go. Hold up. C. Hang on just a second. You know, that doesn't happen. That can't happen. A drummer is not going to stop for you to change. So how do you get over that? Well, maybe you could move a little bit earlier, but keep your strumming going. So maybe we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and. So you move on the and, right? So we're still strumming, but we get a slight open strum. But that's cool. This is how it sounds. So the idea is you make sure you're on that chord when beat number 1 comes along, and that this hand doesn't stop when you get there. It's all about thinking ahead. When you're on C, at what point do you need to be thinking about it? Well, you don't. You're on it. You're on the C chord. So at this point, soon as you're on that C chord and you're strumming through it, now your brain can be thinking about the next chord. So if E minor is your next chord, as soon as you strike beat number 1, now you start thinking about, okay, now I've got to move to E minor, and E minor looks like that. So, and you're mentally preparing yourself for that next chord. These things become a lot easier as you go through this, and you'll find it much more much easier to do it naturally and progressively. So then go through the song, choose another 2 chords, do 4 chords, and just get through them all. Another quick little warm-up you can do is, let's say your song's got 4 chords and it has a C, an E minor, a G and a D. Okay, you can do a little slowly speeded up one. This isn't something you do to a metronome, so you might go, and you just gradually just speed up. It's just a bit of fun, just to get you warmed up through the changes. It's context-based because whilst you're preparing your chords and you're warming up your hands, you're also preparing your mind. So then when you sit down to play the song, your brain has already heard C, E minor, G and D, and your brain goes, oh yeah, I know them. So you concentrate on your strumming, you concentrate on getting your lyrics right and the changes that are coming up. I'll take care of what chords are coming. So it's all about training. So remember, you're not just warming up your hands, you're warming up your mind and helping yourself focus so that you can just concentrate on more than one thing at once, because some things that you're doing are automatically being focused on. One more that I think we covered in the power chord episode, actually. It's just a little power chord warm-up. So if you're wondering about doing bar chords or power chords, remember this idea of playing one power chord at fret 1, moving up a string, forward a fret, down a string, forward a fret, up a string, forward a fret, down a string, forward a fret, and so on. So you'd go, and so forth. So that's just an idea, and you can do that backwards as well. And that can just be a bit of fun. So this doesn't have to be a lengthy thing either. Literally, if you do 30 to 60 seconds of this before you play, it'll be a benefit to you. If you can do 2 or 3, 4 or 5 minutes of it before you play, then great. But we're all stuck for time, and we often just want to get into the song that we're doing. We want to start playing, we want to start recording it, and that's fine. That's just the way that we are. But give yourself 30 to 60 seconds at least each time you pick up the guitar. You pick it up and go, right, okay. Right, let's do. Okay, now I'm ready to learn the song. So really, it is that simple. But again, accuracy. Start slow, build up your speed. There is no substitution for practicing cleanly and accurately and gradually building up your speed. You will then, when you're playing faster, you won't just be sloppy, you'll be playing accurately. Okay, so set yourself a goal. Next time you pick up your guitar, before you play anything, you do a warm-up. Next time you have a gig, before you start playing the gig, you have a little warm-up. Warm up your fingers, warm up your chords, and then go for it. I guarantee you will perform better in those situations. Remember, an athlete wouldn't dream of starting without any kind of warm-up, and we are guitar athletes. So put that to practice, and I promise you will see results from it. So until next time, keep warming up, keep playing, keep practicing, and I shall see you next time. Thanks for listening.